Cinephiles, movie geeks, and horror fans alike. Epic Film Guy Justin here. I had a chance last night to check out Gil Kenan, known for the awesome Monster House, his Poltergeist remake. A remake of the beloved 1982 horror classic directed by Tobe Hooper, which is one of my personal favorites of my childhood. And actually, one horror film my parents would let me watch. With these kinds of remakes, particularly horror remakes, fans are pretty rabid about these things. The question is, why remake a classic like this? What are you going to bring to the table to make it new, fresh, innovative? What are you going to do to make it build on what the themes and ideas of the original are and set itself apart from the original? That's the question at hand. Well, with Kenan's Poltergeist remake, that question is kind of hard to answer. The production made sure to differentiate itself very much from the classic original, yet stayed fairly close on many different terms. So we start out, the premise is pretty much the same. No spoiler alert here, if you've ever seen the original, and if you haven't, then go home and buy it or rent it because you're missing out on a classic. Family moves in this particular case, they're moving into a new house. This is not the same family we know of the original. This family is lower middle class, out of work, and they're on hard times. They're upon hard times. They're really trying to find their way back to where they were financially and just live and be able to be a successful family. In this particular case, they move into a bad area where they buy a cheaper house. And from there, you pretty much can guess what happens. Little bumps in the middle of the night, little things start to happen that start to raise the kids' eyebrows, and from there, all hell breaks loose, I guess you could say. The things that I'll start out about this film that I actually really did like is that the performances were all pretty well done. I mean, Sam Rockwell saves this entire film. Without Rockwell, this film probably would not have been as successful in its direction and in how it was executed. The guy is just so believable. I love Rockwell. He's just a fantastic actor, and having his caliber of acting in the film definitely moves things along. As well as Kyle Catlett, who plays Griffin, and Kennedy Clements, who plays Maddie, the little girl who gets sucked into the TV. All of these actors were really well put together, and they all really mesh well. Definitely a natural feeling to the family. It didn't feel as Hollywood as a lot of families do in these kinds of movies. So everything came off natural. But aside from that, I mean, there's not really all that much here that I had to like. It wasn't a horrible movie. It wasn't a horrible remake. There was a lot of good use of practical effects. I really enjoyed that. There's some things in there you're like, wow, they didn't use CG for that. But that will actually turn to the things that I really did not like about this movie. The budget, while not cheap, wasn't high either, and it does execute a lot of its CGI very poorly. Especially with a lot of the ways that we see the poltergeists or lost souls. Very generic, not much originality there, and what it used for practical effects, it kind of ruins with the CG. The classic iconic clown from the original film was such an image from our childhood, and they change it here. They purposely make it look scary, which kind of defeats the purpose of it. And then when the thing finally reacts and we expect it to go crazy, it's really bad CG. So it really wasn't that effective. All performances aside, the story, while similar, taking its own liberties here and there, is pretty much the same film to me. Especially the ending. The ending felt like it was pretty much storybook, take the original ending, just slightly change parts of it, and we have the same type of thing. The tone here is very much relatable to the original film. Definitely trying to gear it towards it can be kind of family friendly, but at the same time still try to be scary. But that's the problem with this movie. The number one problem, it's not scary. Not even the jump scares. Not even the typical generic stuff that would make you jump out of your seat. literally nothing here got me. And it shocked me. Usually like a jump scare will get me. I'm a horror fan, but you know, it's something gets me. This really just didn't do that. And while I appreciate all the liberties they took to make it different and to really make it their own, the film still ends up feeling like, you know, just a rehash of the original. Not much more brought to the table in terms of trying to be inventive. I really didn't love the movie, but I didn't hate it either. It's far from the worst remake of a horror film that I've ever seen. My review rating of this movie is 6 out of 10. As I said, I didn't hate the movie. I didn't look at my watch and want to get up and leave, but all I kept thinking about in my head was how much I wanted to go home and watch the original. And I'm not a hater of remakes. I actually love quite a few of them, just as much if not more than the original film. This is just a misstep. Where it really hurt was that where it tried to be inventive, it just ended up being like the typical generic horror flick haunting movie we get, you know, every couple months from Hollywood that really is ruining the horror genre as we know it. So, a little bit of a disappointment, but not to say you shouldn't check it out. You may enjoy it. If you've never seen the original, you may walk into this and be like, hey, this wasn't a bad flick. But the tone really just does not work for a modern day horror flick. What worked in the 80s doesn't work here. And they tried way too hard to keep the same tone, just modernize it. Just a misstep. I know you tried. Sam Raimi, I know you're trying. You're trying to bank off this. It's not happening. Maybe you'll make some money. Epic Film Guy Justin, I'd like to know what you think of the movie if you have any interest of it. I'm also checking out Brad Bird's Tomorrowland this weekend. I can't wait. So, till next time.